1968, when I was going to college, it was during the summer I was reading Autobiography of Yogi, and at that time I thought, this is so incredible, this is so wonderful, it's so amazing, it's so unreal, it's not our life, but it would be incredible to be there. And I thought it would probably take me 100 lifetimes to get to a point where I could go to India and be with Babaji, I thought. Because in the book, he has a small band of devotees. They go from mountaintop to mountaintop and appear in different places at the same time and do all these wonderful things. And I thought, this is just so incredible, but this is life and life goes on. And in 83, in early December of 83, when I got to Haidakhandi, it was absolutely amazing. And Noggin was the one that led our little group from San Francisco. And when we got up to Babaji, who was in the field when we walked up to the ashram, she threw herself on the ground and pranamed. And I still had a little, I just wanted to make sure this is really Babaji. So I bowed down and did a little pranam too. But Noggin's prostrate down on the ground, and he says, get up, you leave immediately. And that's what he told Noggin. And I thought, oh no. But of course that was just his greeting to her. And so the whole thing was, I was just in a state of wonderment. I was here, and here was Babaji, and it's just, I couldn't believe it. And so I assigned the room and the bed, and in the morning got up at 4 and did the river and went to Arti, and it was just totally incomprehensible what was going on. I had no clue. And then there was darshan out on his veranda, and it was a really nice warm morning. It was very blue sky, and the sun was right up there, and I'm just paying attention to everything I can take in, and people would go up and pranam, give him a little gift, ask a question, and so on. And I got to do my turn, and I went back to my seat, and I was sitting here against his apartment wall, and the sun's on me. Babaji's down there, and all his attendants and yogis were gathered around. All the questions have been asked, and I was sitting there just really blissed out. I said, I can't believe this. I'm at Babaji in India, in the mountains. This is just totally incredible. I don't know what more could happen. And Babaji... And so finally Babaji says, Karma Yoga. So everybody's going to go to Karma Yoga, but he gets up first, and he's going to walk down to the veranda and go out first, and the yogis are behind him, and other people are starting to come behind him. And I'm just blissed out. I'm just like, oh my, I'm here. This is realization itself. And so Babaji's walking down, and it's very long, and a lot of people are sitting there. All of a sudden he stops right in front of me and looks down at me. I go, whoa. And he looks at me and he bends down, and he's like right here in my face. And he looks at me, and I don't have a clue. I don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden he goes, ow! I have no idea what's happening. The only thing I could think, when in Rome. So I howled back. The only thing I could do. And he kind of just went back about 6 inches and kind of a little smile on his face. And so he howled again. And of course, everybody is, you know, glued. Anything that Babaji did, everybody was glued to. And so I howled again. And he comes right up to me again and he says, "What's your name?" And I said, "Don." And he said, "John?" I said, "No, Don." And he comes right up to me and he says, "Your name is Mr. Johnson." And he gets up and they go. That was my first morning.
Babaji one time, when already I was like Pujari, everybody calling me Pujari. Baba was lying on his cement thing in the afternoon, 12 to 1 o'clock. Often looking at some mail or looking at some people before they went for prasad. And I came by and I was standing there close to Babaji and Baba called him and said, "What is your name?" But it was in a way that I could mention any name. I started this with my Pujari name, this was no, that name, no. Until he blanked me on like, "What is your name?" And I was just, I don't know anymore. And he wanted to come. I got to that point that we are no name. We are just consciousness. And it was that momentum that he created that, you know, nothing would fit. There was no answer. The real name is not. It's just you are so consciousness. That was also a very strong moment. And at the same time, your name, if Babaji says you are Pujari, it always you have to do puja, you have to do worship, you have to be ready. It is one road, definitely. But at the same time, a road to no name. And Baba played with that a lot. Some people wanted very much a name and they would not get them, Baba would throw them.
I remember Kamalu, one woman wanted a name so bad, and you know, she kept waiting. Finally she went up to Babaji and said, "Please, Babaji, will you give me a name?" He said, "Yes, your name is You Leave Tomorrow." So he would really play, you know. If all you were thinking about is getting a name from Babaji, was like, come on. Babaji said many times, he said, so many, you know, I've come to give, only to give. But so few people are really seeking or asking for what I've really come to give.
There was one incident that I had because we were all the time going on these little yatras, which are sacred trips here and there. And so sometimes we'd be spending a lot of time in the bus during the day. And one time I didn't even know who I was with. It was early in my visits, so I didn't know who Muniraj's mother was. But she happened to be sitting a few rows ahead of me in this bus. And is Muniraj's father wasn't alive when we were visiting? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was some other older man sitting next to her, and I gathered from the nature of the fun that was going on, courtesy of Babaji, of course, was that this fellow was a pretty timid fellow. And I'm not exactly sure how this all fit in with the drama, but Babaji would be sitting up at the front of the bus. And quite frequently, periodically, he would turn around and he would give the goo-goo-goo symbol to this man sitting next to Muniraj's mother. and that meant that he was supposed to stand up and go goo-goo-goo over Muniraj's mother, you know, which, whatever, must not have been totally respectful from Muniraj's mother's point of view, you know. And she's pretty good at taking a joke. She was doing all right, but she would get pretty mad at that old man, you know, and pound away on him, and then everybody would laugh, and they'd have a break for maybe 25 seconds, and Babaji would turn around again and give the goo-goo-goo signal. So this would just sort of be the kinds of things that would go on and entertain us, and sometimes we thought we had some inkling of what maybe the point was, and most of the time we probably didn't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the participants didn't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we went along anyway, of course. And it was worth it. So that's the sum total of the story of the goo-goo-goo.
Talk about the participants not knowing the joke. I had this title that Babaji continually called me by, which was Chief Justice. And you know, my ego is as good as anybody else's, and so I kind of, you know, it was a good thing, you know, Mr. Chief Justice. You know, and then finally it dawned on me that what he was doing to me was telling me how judgmental I was as a person. And I certainly achieved the status of being more judgmental than most people. And you know, but he would come out of his mandir at night. On the way to Arti, we would greet him, and he would kind of reach up and tickle my chin and say, "Mr. Chief Justice." He had a lot of fun with us.
I can remember going to Delhi one time, and I needed to do something about a visa or renew a plane ticket or something like that. And I was making my way through Delhi, and I happened to be on a street corner, and this incredible, drop-dead, gorgeous Indian goddess just floated by, and I just kind of went, no big deal. I got over it. A couple days later, I arrived back in Haidakhandi, climbed up the stairs. Babaji was sitting on this bench that was up there. Pretty lady.
I noticed that Leonard's girlfriend was across the river, and I said, well, why is she over there? Why isn't she over here? And he said, oh, she has her period. She can't go in the temple. And I said, well, no way are they going to keep me out of the temple after I came all this, you know, this far, and, you know, all my feminist nature came up. I said, well, thank God I don't have my period. It's not a problem. I'm just going to get ready for the temple, you know, and everything. So I waited my whole life to be in this temple, but it just, you know, and then all of a sudden I started my period. It was like time. And it was breakthrough bleeding. I thought, oh my God. So I ran to Leonard and I said, what do I do? And he said, don't ask me. I've got my own problems. So I sat down and I thought, I've got to figure out what to do, because I'm not staying out of that temple, you know, and I can't break the rules either. So I came up with this big plan. And I thought, I'll just sit outside the temple, then I won't feel left out, and I'm not really breaking the rules, you know, because it was an open temple, and the little temple was all open to the air, so I thought, this is a great plan. I'll just sit out there, and then I'll feel part of everything. So I had it all worked out. And then they start ringing the bells, you know, and this is my first moment, and, you know, we didn't have books, anything. We didn't have, there was no rules, there was no instructions, there was no preparation. I mean, I didn't know anything. So I started coming out. So here's Babaji now. He's starting to come out of his room, And he had dressed exactly like my fantasy this time. He was wearing satin robes and a turban, exactly what I was imagining I would want my guru to look like. I couldn't believe it. Ah, this is just fantastic. And so he looked at me with this look, and he took his robe and he threw it around like this. And he looked at me with such a look that I just hit the ground. He literally knocked me over. And I remember when I was falling, I said to myself, are you going to go through with that plan? I'm really going to do it. And then I hit the ground and I said, dear God, let me surrender to this. And that's all I remember. And so then they started singing, and he went in the temple and sat up in his place, and I sat outside, and everybody's in there singing. And all of a sudden he yells, stop! And everybody just shakes, because it had such a shock to you that anytime he would yell, you would just shake in your bones. And then he looked right at me, and I was shaking so much. And Leonard had said to me before he left, he says, oh, you think you're so smart, and Babaji's going to have your case in 1 second. And he did, he just nailed me like that. And he said to me, are you a man or a woman? And I said, oh, first of all, he said I could come in. First of all, and I was really surprised, because I thought, my God, oh, I know why. He knows it's not my real period. It's just right completely. It's an accident. So he's making an exception, and I was just so happy, So I ran and I sat down, and then he yells at me, are you a man or a woman? And I said, I'm a woman, and I had sat down with all the men. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
This is the story of Makhan Singh's birthday and Prem Baba's death.
Oh, yeah.
So one day at the ashram, this young, nice, sweet Makhan Singh from Hawaii was over on the cave side with Prem Baba, who most of you have probably seen in videotapes if you didn't get there. He was all the time doing the long prayers before the lunch. Anyway, Prem Baba managed to slip quite strongly backwards. He fell over backwards and hit his head against the rock. And he was just lying there and not moving. And Makhan Singh was near him or with him. He got very upset. Saw that he couldn't bring him to, so he ran over to Babaji and said, Babaji, Ram Baba's maybe dying. Please do something. And as it turned out on this occasion, the way I heard the story was that Prem Baba had actually decided to take this opportunity to leave. And he was well in the midst of doing that when Babaji shows up. And Babaji says, look, Prem, it's Makhan Singh's birthday. And he's terribly upset. So why don't you come back anyway? And that was pretty much it. Poor Prem Baba's had to stay around.
Still around.
10 extra years anyway.
It was Christmas. It was a week before Christmas, 1983, ashram, as far as I knew. And one of the things that, to step back, I discovered Babaji through Yogananda in about 68. And so I started meditating and praying to Babaji starting about 68. And I just thought that would be it. It was unimaginable that Babaji would ever be in his body in India in my lifetime. It's just completely didn't even consider the possibility. But as news came up from California in 1983, people were coming back and saying that really is Babaji in his body, and I had to go to India. It wasn't that I had to go to India, he said I had to go to India myself. This is too unreal. I have to see this myself. And I was there from about 3 weeks, 1983, to about the 7th, 8th day of 1984. But before Christmas, one morning, one of the first early mornings, and getting up at 4 in the morning and bathing in the river was really different and really refreshing. And you had to be very clean going into Arti. And so about the 4th, 5th day, we were all very clean, lined up. There was another fellow that was on the airplane with me coming from San Francisco. And we were both sitting next to the wall, waiting for Arti to start. And the Karma Yogis came in. And they said, we need some volunteers to bring the tent up the steps. And the 108 steps and the poles, you, and you, and it was all the bigger guys. And so we all got up and we went down. We were all clean, we had all our clean Arti clothes on. We worked in those. And we carried these monster tents up the steps, and we carried 20, 30-foot mahogany poles that must have weighed 150 pounds apiece up the 108 steps. And we worked, I would say, about 3 hours. I mean, we were completely filthy, we were sweating. Tents were dirty, the poles were dirty. It was just a terrible mess. But we did it. And so then, after that, we were said, we'll finish working for the rest of the time till lunch on the rocks at the bridges. So we were down doing rocks at the bridges afterwards, and we were completely wiped out by that time. And Babaji always came across the river going over to the other side. For lunch, he would lead a procession over, and when he got to where we were working, he took me aside and he said, after lunch, I have a project for you. I want you to bring these timbers over to where the soldiers are going to stay, because for Christmas Day, the governor of the state and his soldiers, his protectors, whoever, came up to the ashram. And he said, bring these 2 massive beams over to where the soldiers are going to stay. And I said, yes, Baba, do that. And so after lunch, this other fellow and myself were working with the crew, and I told everybody I was asked to bring these 2 massive timbers over. And so they patted our shoulders with burlap, and then 4 guys lifted these timbers on our shoulder. So we took them from the middle of the river all the way across the creeks and then up into whatever building that was, where the soldiers were going to sleep. And we put the first one down. And when we came back out and went around the corner and back to get the second one, Babaji was there. And so I'm first in line, and I go, kind of acknowledging him, and he reaches out, and he grabs my cheek, and he goes, "Atta baby, atta baby." I have no idea where this is going, and I just, okay. So we go over, and we get the second timber, and bring it over. And we bring it back and carry it up the hill. We put it in where the soldiers are going to be. And on the way back again, that other fellow's name was David, and I said, boy, that was, Babaji's kind of funny sometimes. And he goes, I can't talk. And I said, what do you mean you can't talk? We've been talking all morning. He said, I can't talk. I said, what happened? He said, remember when Babaji grabbed your cheek? And I said, no. And he said, when I went past, he put his hands up to my throat like this and squeezed, and I can't talk. I said, well, why would he do that? And David said, I think it was this morning because I was all clean and ready for Arti, and we were asked to go do all this work. And I said to myself, God, I don't want to do this. And I swore, in my mind, I don't want to do it. He said, I'm not a morning person. I wasn't ready for that. And I took the name of the Lord in vain. And so when you got this, I got this. He couldn't talk for 3 days. And I went, whoa. That's a heavy story.
Shiva Shambho, Shiva Shambho.